Revealed, 300 terrifying disappearances in haunted national parks. A sinister truth uncovered. Clara felt the world closing in on her. After another grueling week of endless shifts at the diner and caring for her daughter, Lily, she hit a breaking point. The same faces, the same routine, it was choking her spirit. So, with nothing but a hope and a sturdy car, she packed their bags, excited for a weekend escape into the heart of Ohio's South National Park. The tales she heard whispered among townsfolk about the park's eerie history, a chilling list of over 300 disappearances echoed in her mind, yet she brushed them aside. Clara was ready to create joyful memories, not nightmares. They neared the park. The towering trees loomed against a backdrop of vibrant autumn colors. It was breathtaking, magical even. Clara's heart swelled with a mix of relief and excitement. But just as quickly, dark tendrils of apprehension slid into her thoughts. What if there was truth to those hauntings? It was easy to dismiss when nestled in the cozy chaos of suburbia. Yet here, nature's beauty felt intertwined with something unfathomable. By nightfall, Clara pitched their rudimentary camping tent, determined to make the best of it. The glow from the campfire danced upon her daughter's face, illuminating the sweetness in Lily's laughter. But as Clara nestled down, whisper-like winds beckoned from the shadows, twisting her mind in knots. She felt it, then the forest wasn't simply quiet, it was watching. As sleep eluded her, Clara fought the creeping fear gnawing at her. She recalled those tales, of spirits punishing intruders, of silhouettes darting between trees, stories filled with dread. A chill crawled up her spine. Was she overreacting? It was just a campfire, a night amongst trees. Surely, there was nothing to fear unless something were out there, lurking. Morning light streamed through the branches like an eager child desperate to join their play. Clara grabbed Lily's hand, and they set off for a hike. The forest seemed alive, but contrary to its beauty, Clara sensed an invisible eye upon them. Lily's giggles rang out cheerfully, but every sound echoed unnaturally in Clara's mind, twisting into a chilling soundscape that filled her with dread. That a sudden shift in the earth caught Clara's eyes. A jagged stone half buried, marked with symbols she couldn't comprehend. The air thickened. Clara felt cold droplets of sweat trickle down her back. "Leave it," she urged, but Lily reached for the stone. The thrill of their adventure had soured to something foreboding. Suddenly, she spotted a figure just at the tree line, watching with an intensity that chilled her to the core. Their hike turned frantic. Shadows morphed. Leaves rustled with a sinister whisper that stirred panic inside Clara. With every step, the landscape transformed. The paths she recognized twisted into confusing mazes. She clutched Lily's hand, the grip tightening as dread settled in. The tightness in her chest grew as they heard a voice echo through the trees. It was their neighbor from home, calling out for help, but the desperate tone sent shivers racing down Clara's spine. The knowledge bloomed that she couldn't trust that voice, not in these woods where the boundaries of reality blurred like a fading dream. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With horror pounding in her chest, Clara forced herself to focus on the path ahead, feeling it slip away beneath her feet. The woods ensconced them in darkness, their safety dissolving as the crisp air thickened. Clara's thoughts raced. The oppressive atmosphere became a living thing, wrapping around them like tendrils. Each breath she took was heavy, laden with the taste of fear. Unexpected twists of fate brought their lives into question. Could she protect Lily from the dark secrets held within the trees? The trees closed in tighter, the whispers sharp and demanding. Would they disappear too? Clara's heart hammered louder as she fought to find her way out, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She gripped Lily's hand, her instincts screaming there was no turning back. Now something sinister was watching, waiting. The forest wasn't just a backdrop. It was alive, and it wanted its secrets to remain buried. Clara's breath quickened, panic flooding her thoughts as the forest pressed in closer. The shadows morphed, twisting into shapes that seemed to reach for her, as if begging her to turn back. Her heart galloped, beating an urgent rhythm that drowned out the echoes of the whispered warnings on the wind. She pulled Lily along, every rustle of leaves sending jolts of fear down her spine. "Mommy, I'm scared." Lily's voice broke the stifling silence, and Clara felt a chill as she glanced back. The way her daughter's eyes widened, filled with bewildered dread, sent a shiver through her. "Just hold my hand tighter, sweetie," Clara breathed, forcing a smile that felt heavy against her lips. "We'll find our way back to the tent." But deep down, unknown terrors gnawed at her mind, urging her to run, to escape the watchful eyes lurking just beyond the trees. But there was no clear path. Nothing felt familiar anymore, and the way ahead twisted like a serpent, almost taunting them. Clara could have sworn she saw the shadows shift, darting in and out of view, as if something hungered for them to stray further, to take one more step deeper into the heart of the woods. Then, a low, guttural sound, like a growl, filled the air. It rolled through the trees, vibrating the very ground beneath them. Clara froze. The sound morphed into a voice, low and pulsating, yet almost melodic. "Help me." It beckoned, twisted seamlessly with the rustling leaves. The temptation to turn, to seek the source of despair pulled at her, an invitation steeped in terror. Lily tugged at Clara's hand, her grip tight as she whimpered, "Mommy, I don't like it here." "Neither do I," Clara confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. Taking a shaky breath, she chose determination to envelop them, forcing the sound of anxiety far away from her mind. Suddenly, a quick movement caught her eye. Clara's heart leapt as she spotted that figure again, the same one she'd seen at the tree line. It was closer now, partially obscured by the underbrush. A stocky build, clad in dark clothing, its face indistinct and shadowed. Clara strained her eyes, trying to discern the features, but the forest bled darkness around it, swallowing light, and revealing nothing but more questions. "Leave now," the figure rasped, voice breaking through the air like shattering glass. It gestured toward them, a hand stretched wide, fingers twitching in frantic desperation. Clara's instincts screamed to run. But was it a warning or a trap? "We can't stay here," she whispered to Lily. "We need to go." Yet, without a sound, the figure vanished, swallowed by the trees like a ghost. Clara's heart raced as they stood in the heavy stillness that followed. "Mommy, where did it go?" Lily asked, wide-eyed. "I don't know, but we have to keep moving," Clara responded, her voice shaking. A creeping realization settled in. What if they were already too late? Clara pushed forward, forcing her feet to move, willing them to find a way out of this nightmare. Desperate thoughts flashed through her mind. Could they make it back to the tent? Would they even find their way? The once welcoming glow of their camping site now felt impossibly far away, like a beckoning mirage. Just then, the wind shifted, carrying a sound with it, a shrill child's laughter that sliced through Clara's gut. It echoed in the distance, reflecting Lily's playful giggles, but warped, dark and twisted. Clara felt bile rise in her throat. No, that's not Lily," she shouted, her voice mingling with a rising sense of dread as the laughter grew louder, more demented. They turned, glancing behind, but the woods remained silent, the shadows hugging their form. Reflecting that laughter into Clara's own mind, a wild thought ignited. What if they weren't alone? What if the forest had other plans for them? Clara clutched Lily tight, terror flaring. The sinister allure of the trees pressed them further, away from the path leading home. As they stumbled deeper, Clara knew with a chilling certainty that every step might be one closer to losing everything. And truly, what waits within the depths when one's spirit begins to break? But as they forged onward, a glimmer of hope pierced the darkness, the faint outline of their tent gleaming through the oppressive shadows. Just as clarity strengthened her resolve, the laughter returned, this time surrounding them, cackling, mocking, a chorus of lost souls. "Run, Lily, run!" Clara screamed, and with every ounce of strength left, they dashed toward the spot that held the promise of safety, or so she thought. But in the looming darkness, another voice whispered, "Stay with us." What did she truly know of the forest? Their feet pounded against the uneven ground, the twisted roots snaring at Clara's ankles like skeletal fingers seeking to trip them. All around, the shadows danced, an unsettling ballet of darkness that filled the night with silent screams. Clara's lungs burned as they charged forward, hope a flickering candlelight against the consuming blackness. "Mommy, I'm tired," Lily gasped, her small legs struggling to keep pace. "Just a little further, honey. We're almost there," Clara urged, though doubt wormed its way into her heart. She could feel the malevolent presence stalking them, the very air heavy with a palpable dread that clung to her skin like sweat. The trees loomed taller, and the laughter echoed once again nearer now, circling them, tugging at the edges of her sanity. It sounded wrong, so wrong, like the remnants of joy twisted into something grotesque. Clara gritted her teeth, willing herself not to think about what she could not see, what might be lurking just beyond her line of sight. Then, a crack sharp and sudden. Clara's heart dropped as she turned to see what had caused it, but there was nothing, only the trees whispering among themselves. "Lily, stay close," she snapped, her voice harsher than she intended, but fear turned her into a coiled spring, ready to explode. Suddenly, the laughter multiplied, joining together in a haunting melody. "Mommy," it sang, and Clara felt a tremor run down her spine. It was her daughter's voice, yet utterly foreign. Fear seized her, a cold, clawing terror that left her breathless. "Don't listen," Clara yelled, desperation fueling her legs as she pushed onward. She gripped Lily's hand harder, feeling the warmth of her child's at her side. Yet, in that moment, a flicker of doubt crossed Clara's mind. What if Lily wasn't really beside her anymore? What if this was a nightmare, wrapped in layers of shadows, and the real Lily had been taken? "Where are you, Mommy?" The unmistakable tremor in Lily's voice sent wave after wave of horror cascading through Clara. She spun around to face her daughter, and relief flooded her senses. Lily stood there, trembling, eyes wide, raw with fear. But behind her, moments stretched thick and clung like cobwebs. Clara watched in a freezing silence as something darker unfolded, a shadow seeping from the trees, creeping incrementally forward, an unfurling tendril of malice. "Run, Lily," Clara shouted, panic igniting anew. They turned, bolting blindly into the abyss, the forest closing in, a living thing that twisted and coiled around them. Ahead, the light of the tent flickered, a beacon amidst the consuming void. Clara's heart buoyed for a fraction of a moment. They were so close. Yet the laughter became deafening, as if 100 children were trapped within the woods, mocking their every step, every ounce of hope that they clung to. Then, from the depths of the darkness, she saw a face, pale and staring, peering at them from behind the underbrush. Eyes wide, something unholy flickered there, and Clara stumbled, almost losing her grip on Lily. She yanked her back just as her foot caught on a root, the dirt giving way beneath her. "Mommy, what was that?" Lily whimpered, terror mirrored in her gaze. Clara dared not look again, every fiber of her being screaming to flee. But suddenly, Clara heard another voice, a fierce, commanding tone interspersed with desperation. "Help us," it echoed around them, a chilling plea that resonated in her core, stronger than ever. She couldn't differentiate shadows from reality anymore. Clara felt as though she was entangled in a web spun by a spider larger than anything she could comprehend, yet still, she pressed on. The weight of their fate bore down on her like a boulder, and she simplified her mission. Reach the light, escape the clutches of this wretched, unnatural place they stumbled through. The shadows flickered, growing as the cacophony of laughter swelled in eerie harmony. The tent loomed larger now, and Clara kicked into high gear, her survival instincts on fire. "Almost there, Lily. Just a little more." But a sudden burst of wind whipped around them, and the laughter crescendoed to a spine-chilling peak, freezing her in place. Limbs frozen and heart hammering, she watched as something began to emerge from the surrounding darkness, the outline of that figure reappearing. So close now, she could almost taste the fear leaking from its presence. "Stay with us," it wheezed, its raspy voice winding around her throat, choking any hope she had left. Clara screamed and yanked Lily toward her. They dashed for the tent, but what awaited just beyond that threshold remained unknown. Would it be sanctuary, or had they wandered straight into the mouth of something more malevolent? The figure lunged, and Clara cried out, her final strength crumbling. What more would the forest reveal? The tent loomed closer, a fragile sanctuary against the engulfing night, but Clara could feel the sinister tendrils slithering behind her. With every step, the laughter grew. A cacophony of twisted glee seemed to echo from the very earth beneath them. "Mommy, I can't," but Clara cut Lily off, her heart hammering like a war drum. "Don't stop. Don't look back," she urged, fear coating her words like ice. Suddenly, a shadow flickered at the edge of her vision. Clara risked a glance over her shoulder, and her breath caught in her throat. The pale, expressionless face watched them with a smile that oozed malice. Eyes black as coal, they bore into her soul, hungry and relentless. "Keep running, Lily," she screamed, kicking into high gear. They were so close now, just a few more steps before the tent's comforting fabric swallowed them whole. The wind shrieked around them, a howling protest against their flight. Then, as if the night itself retaliated, a thick mist spiraled up from the ground, wrapping around Clara's legs like a vice. She stumbled, the fog dragging her down as it seeped into her shoes, into her skin. "Mommy, help!" Lily's voice broke through, piercing Clara's haze of panic. With a final, desperate lunge, Clara clawed her way out of the fog, reaching for her daughter. She grasped Lily's hand, pulling her close, and together they entered the tent, collapsing inside. The moment they crossed the threshold, the world outside seemed to screech to a halt. The laughter faded into an echo, only to twist into something more sinister. A slow, rhythmic tapping began on the fabric walls, like skeletal fingers drumming a funeral march. Clara gasped for breath, trying to steady her racing heart. The tent was dimly lit by a flickering lantern on the ground, casting unsettling shadows that danced like memories come to life. She tugged Lily close, their bodies shaking together. "We're safe now," she whispered, though a gnawing unease clawed at her stomach. But safety was just an illusion. The walls quivered as if something pressed against them, and the air grew thick and musty. Clara felt the hairs on her arms stand up as a cold breeze swept through the tent, chilling her to the bone. "Mommy, what's that?" Lily pointed toward the entrance, a palpable fear lighting her eyes anew. Clara turned, and her breath hitched in her throat. The opening of the tent rippled, like it was being pushed from the outside. "Nothing, sweetie. Just the wind." But deep inside, that familiar darkness stirred, whispering truths she dared not face. Then came the voice, a soft, tantalizing lilt cutting through the creeping dread. "Help us." Clara froze, her stomach knotting tighter. It was the same voice that had taunted them earlier, a blend of sweet innocence and cruel malice. This time, it felt different. "Closer. Stay here, Lily." She hesitated, unsure if she could defend her daughter against whatever was lurking just beyond the thin fabric. But curiosity gnawed at her, and instinct she fought to resist. It was foolish, she knew, but something inside urged her to look. The shadows beckoned as she crawled cautiously to the entrance. The lantern flickered harder, and the tapping intensified, each sound a countdown. Clara bit her lip, the tension of the moment almost unbearable. What awaited them outside? Was it a trick, a trap designed to snare her in its web of despair? "Mommy." Lily's whimper made Clara's heart ache. She turned back to reassure her, to shield her from the unknown. But that moment of distraction cost her dearly. The dark shadow from before surged inside the tent, its form shifting and writhing like smoke taking shape. Clara barely had time to scream before the shadow lashed out, wrapping around her throat like a noose, dragging her back toward the abyss of fear. "Mommy!" Lily screamed, the terror in her voice shattering the fragile hold of sanity. Clara and her daughter's eyes locked, a moment suspended in horror, before Clara was yanked toward the darkness. The world outside swirled into a chaotic tempest, and the last thing Clara saw was Lily's terrified face before the shadows swallowed her whole. What had they unleashed? What awaited Lily in the night alone? Lily's cries faded into a haunting silence, and the empty tent stood like a monument to despair. She was alone. The chill of the night seeped through the fabric walls, wrapping around Lily like icy fingers. Her senses blared with the awareness that something was out there, waiting in the dark. "Mommy," she called, her small voice trembling in the stillness. A dreadful foreboding settled in her stomach as the echo of her own words returned to her, swallowed by the encroaching darkness outside. Shadows twisted and curled at the edges of the tent, flickering wanly in the dim lantern light. With every beat of her heart, uncertainty gripped her tighter. Stay put, her mother had said. But what if? What if something had taken her? The fear was a raw, gnawing animal trapped inside her chest. Desperation spurred Lily forward. She took a step toward the tent exit, each movement feeling heavier, as though the thick air itself conspired to hold her back. She peeked out into the murky night, eyes straining to pierce the gloom. "Mommy!" she yelled again, her voice cracking. The only reply was the groan of the wind, as if the earth itself mourned the absence of their lives. Bravely, she pushed the tent flap aside, the fabric cool and clammy against her fingers. Outside, a dense fog swirled, obscuring everything. Lily swallowed hard, the taste of fear bitter on her tongue. She felt so small, exposed, and vulnerable against the vastness of the darkness that stretched endlessly before her. "Clara?" A voice whispered from somewhere in the fog, sweet and luring. Lily's heart raced. "Help us!" The voice was familiar yet foreign, echoing with a promise wrapped in dread. Clara's absence became palpable. The shadows around her thickened as if feeding on her terror. Lily stepped out into the oppressive night, her legs shaking like brittle reeds in a storm. She looked around, searching for any sign of her mother, the faint hope flickering in her chest like the dying lantern inside the tent. The uncanny feeling of being watched crawled over her skin. The bushes rustled, not from any breeze, but something deeper, a presence lurking. She turned, feeling the weight of heavy eyes fixated on her. "Mommy?" Her voice was small, lost amidst the thick fog. Without warning, laughter erupted, high-pitched and manic. It danced through the air like poison. Panic surged, and she turned to run, her heartbeat pounding in her ears, drowning out everything else. But the ground felt relentless beneath her feet, muck sucking at her shoes, pulling her back like a child tugging at their parent. The laughter rose, now a chorus, 100 voices maiming the fabric of sanity as they echoed around her. "Help us," they beckoned, intertwining with her own fear so that she felt she might choke on it. Lily skidded to a halt, eyes wide as shadows emerged from the fog, curling inward toward her, threatening, twisting, monstrous forms beckoning with outstretched claws. She fought the impulse to scream as they advanced. Images of her mother flashed in her mind, Clara's warmth, her brave face, everything that had just vanished like morning mist. But then came a new voice, a deep rumble, hoarse but undeniably human. "Run, Lily. You have to run." It was her father's voice, trembling with urgency. A flicker of light broke through the mist, illuminating his face, a frantic mix of fear and determination. "Daddy!" she cried, hope crashing into despair. But as she took a step toward him, the shadows twisted, swallowing his voice, drowning it in horrid laughter that enveloped the night. Her path seemed to narrow, the laughter grasping at her ankles as she hesitated. Was the light truly him? Or another trap, cloaked in familiarity? "Run!" he shouted again, desperation crashing against the sinister chorus. Lily made her decision, her legs carrying her forward, even as the shadows clawed and clawed at her sanity. She had to escape, but as she sprinted into the darkness, the laughter morphed into a chilling harmony, whispering her name, each note vibrating with a sense of foreboding. What depths of horror lay ahead? What awaited in the swirling mist of night? And would she ever find her mother again? Lily ran until her lungs burned, the air thick with fog and fear. Each step fought against the suffocating weight of the night. The wicked laughter surged, rising and falling like a sinister tide. "Help us," it chimed, and with every whispered plea, her heart clenched in terror. "Stop! Just stop!" she screamed, but her voice was lost in the chaos. Shadows flitted just outside her vision, darting behind trees, creeping closer. Gripped by primal dread, she pivoted. The flickering light of her father felt like a beacon, pulling her toward it. She could almost see him, his eyes wide with fear, hands outstretched, willing her to hurry. But another voice pierced the fog, sharper than before, laced with malice. "Stay with us, Lily." It hissed, smooth as oil yet chilling like ice. It felt wrong, tainted like a lie dressed as truth. Every instinct screamed for her to ignore it, but it was hauntingly familiar. Ignoring the entreaty, she sprinted toward the flickering light. The laughter morphed, echoing her name now. "Lily, join us." Her legs felt like lead, each step labored. The beckoning voices tangled in her mind, clawing at her reasoning. What if it was just a trick of the night? She couldn't stop, now couldn't turn back to whatever trap had taken her mother. As she dove towards the light, it flickered one last time, then wavered. Her heartbeat thudded painfully in her ears. The moment she reached for the glow, it vanished, leaving her engulfed in shadow. "Daddy?" she cried, the panic erupting anew like fire through her veins. But this time, the laughter morphed into a low thrum, a heartbeat, vibrating through the ground beneath her feet, reverberating in her bones. It felt alive, crawling beneath her skin. The fog thickened, swirling with a life of its own, and the trees around her seemed to shape into grotesque figures, their branches twisting like gnarled fingers. The chill swept through her, and she stumbled backward. In that instant, she remembered her mother's voice. "Never let go of who you are, Lily." The words anchored her. She wasn't lost. Not yet. "Get away from me," she yelled defiantly, planting her feet firm against the encroaching darkness. And just like that, the laughter faltered, wavering as if caught off guard. Turning on her heel, she ran deeper into the woods, branches clawing at her cheeks, the earth unsteady beneath her. Silence swallowed the cacophony, an oddly thick blanket muffling all sound. Then, just as she breathed a sigh of relief, a whisper coiled around her. "You shouldn't have run." The darkness stirred at her back, a wave of cold terror sweeping over her. Who are you?" she stammered, feeling her voice tremble as she pressed on, determination battling fear. "Your guide," it replied, sinister yet deceptive, like a shadow cloaking the sun. "We are all your guides here until you become one of us." Dread pooled in her stomach, freezing her steps. She stumbled, and the ground quaked as if in response. Panic surged again. The shadows crawled closer, threatening to envelop her, to pull her into their hollow embrace. "Run, Lily. Do not look back." Her father's voice surged once more through the stillness, imbued with a desperate urgency, mixed with something darker. "Who are you?" she gasped, her voice trembling from the fear constricting her throat. "It's a game," the entity replied, a twisted, mischievous tone lacing its words. "And you're losing." Her chest tightened, monstrous shapes blurring at the edge of her vision. She had to escape, but where? A sudden chill brushed against her nape, as if icy breath had caressed the back of her neck. And then she heard it, a crackle, like a branch snapping somewhere deep within the woods. A presence loomed behind her. Lily turned, her heart hammering, and the shadows loomed ever larger, stretching out for her. "Help me," she gasped, feeling her strength faltered. In that moment of eye-widening horror, she realized she was not alone. The question throbbed in her chest as she faced the encroaching darkness. Would she have the courage to confront whatever lurked beyond? And then, as the figure emerged, cloaked in the very essence of shadow, her worst fears solidified before her. "What will you do now, Lily?" it whispered, its voice like rusted metal, scratching against her sanity. What horrid truth awaited her just beyond that fog? Would the sacrifice of her past save her future, or damn her forever? A frigid claw of fear gripped Lily's chest as the figure stepped into the faint light, its form twisting and contorting like a shadow in the water. She fought the urge to scream, but her voice was a throatful of gravel, stuck and unwilling to leave her lips. "Stay back," she managed to choke out, backing away from the dark embodiment of dread. "Such spirit," the creature hissed, the words slithering out like smoke, curling and coiling into the thickening air. "But how long can you hide behind your defiance?" Its eyes, if they could be called that, glimmered like black holes, deep, consuming, relentless. Panic surged, flooding her veins with adrenaline. She spun and sprinted again, the shadows whispering her name, growing louder, more insistent with each desperate step. "Lily, you can't escape." The ground shifted beneath her, the earth trembling as if the very world was recoiling from the malevolence chasing her. Each stride was a fight against an unseen force, the weight of unseen eyes pressing down, watching her every move. A sharp branch snagged her arm, tearing through flesh, but she couldn't stop. The pain was a distant thought compared to the horror of what was behind her. Just a little closer, the voice taunted, smooth and venomous. The laughter returned, rising like a wave, crashing over her mind. She clutched her head, trying to drown it out. This was a game. She had to find a way to win. A flicker of hope pierced through the fog, a dim light breaking through the trees ahead. It flickered like a dying star, but it was there. "Dad!" she screamed, forcing her weary legs to push harder. Each step sent fresh waves of anguish through her body, but she could not stop. Not now. The shadows seemed to shift, forming a wall, blocking her path. "Not so fast," the creature crooned, stretching its limbs out to embrace the darkness enveloping her. A cold shiver ran down her spine, forcing her to skid to a halt. "Why are you doing this?" she wailed. "What do you want?" The silence that followed was punctuated by her ragged breathing. "Only what you owe. Every soul must pay for its secrets." The creature's voice echoed, painful and seductive, pulling at her deepest instincts, a siren's call. The light ahead pulsed again, stronger this time, like a heart beating from a distance. "Believe in it, Lily," she murmured to herself, her mother's voice threading through her mind. With a scream of determination, she charged toward the light, sidestepping the outstretched shadows that clawed for her. As she neared, she felt an unseen force pushing back, trying to drag her into the depths. She could see it was not just a light. It was a figure, her father, standing still in the radiance. "Come, sweet Lily." He beckoned, his expression a mix of concern and strange ecstasy. But something in his tone felt off wrong. The world around her pitched and turned as the fog tightened around her, wrapping her like a shroud. And with a sudden, terrifying clarity, she understood what he meant. "No, you're not him," she cried, fingers curling into fists. "Join us," the others called from the dark, twisting and swirling like a whirlwind of despair. "Join us, Lily. We will keep you safe." Lily stumbled back, heart racing, stomach churning. In the flickering glow, she could see her father's features shifting, morphing into something grotesque. Fear blazed bright inside her, battling the alluring whispers spiraling through her mind. The darkness pulsed, feeding off her confusion, her doubt. "No," she screamed. "I want to be like you." But as she turned, the shadows lunged, their grasp wrapping around her, pulling her back into chaos. "Then you will be lost." The creature laughed, and she felt the cold tendrils of the forest wrap around her ankles, pulling her down into the abyss. Her breath quickened, the world tipping dangerously, the light of her father flickering like an old bulb about to give way. "Help! Someone help me!" she cried, fighting against the ever-tightening grip. In that moment of piercing clarity, she knew this was a battle not just for her life, but for her very soul. What would she sacrifice to claw her way back to the surface? How far would she go to defy the pull of those dark echoes? As the shadows wove tighter around her, the light vanished, plunging her into darkness. The last thought that pierced through her fading consciousness was a terrifying realization. Maybe she was not ready to face what dwelled within. Would she find the strength to break free, or would the woods claim her as one of their own? Lily's heart pounded in her chest as the shadows pulled at her limbs like 1,000 icy fingers. Panic consumed her thoughts, drowning out the fear. She twisted and writhed, battling against the cold embrace of the unseen horrors. "No," she screamed, a raw, desperate sound that echoed into the void surrounding her. Suddenly, the darkness inhaled sharply, and she felt the grip loosen just for a heartbeat. Seizing the chance, she lunged forward, breaking free of the dark tendrils that sought to claim her. The ground felt soft under her feet, and she sprang up, gasping for air, as if surfacing from deep waters. But this supposed freedom was a cruel mirage. The forest felt alive, the trees whispering with secrets too dark to comprehend. Wisps of fog slithered around her ankles, pulling her back, urging her to stay. "You can't escape your fate," they hissed, the words wrapping around her mind like a nightmare refusing to end. Spotting a narrow, winding path veering away from the haunting shadows, Lily took a deep breath and bolted down it. Every step was a gamble, a desperate prayer as she cut through the mist. Twisting branches reached out, scratching her skin, yet she pushed on, feeling their jagged fingers scrape against her ankles like a warning. "Lily," the creature's voice slithered from somewhere behind her, smooth and inviting, like the coiling smoke from a fire. "Why run from those who want to help you? You're not meant to suffer alone. This is your true family." She stumbled, chest tight with terror at the thought. Family? The weight of her memories slammed into her, revealing the truth she had buried, loss and heartache that had haunted her dreams. But these whispers were poison, tempting her with false companionship, blurring the lines of desire and danger in her mind. Flashes of her happy childhood flickered, laughing with friends, summer picnics, the golden warmth of home. Those memories felt distant now, tainted by the dark presence looming over her. "Join us, Lily," it crooned, the shadowy figures blending into shapes she recognized. They appeared so real, faces sweetened by nostalgia, beckoning her back. As she glanced over her shoulder, she saw them. Cheerful friends from long ago, their features morphing into grotesque grins, eyes shining with a sickly yearning. "No," she shouted, recoiling at the familiarity that now felt like a curse. "You're not real. You're just a trick. Get away from me." The voices fell silent for a heartbeat, and in that moment, the forest held its breath. Darkness swirled, confused by her defiance, but their fear morphed into rage as the shadows writhed angrily around her. Despair clawed at her throat, but she couldn't let it win. She had to break free from this twisted darkness that threatened to consume her. Before she could think, she sprinted deeper into the woods. Every snap of a twig echoed like thunder, every rustle of leaves a reminder of her precarious situation. She could feel the temperature plummet, an unnatural chill creeping beneath her skin, and panic soured her stomach. As she plunged into the dense thicket, a sharp pain shot through her leg, a bramble snagging her, as if the forest itself was trying to hold her back. She gasped, the intense agony breaking through her fog of fear for a split second. Suddenly, she saw a faint flicker in the distance. A warm glow. Could it be sanctuary? A safe haven from the claws of darkness wrapping around her? Lily charged forward, limbs screaming at her to stop, but she pressed on, hope igniting the flames of desperation. As she neared the light, she felt a pull backward, an insistence like a tether to the shadows that whispered promises of acceptance, of never being alone. "Stay with us. Lily, be one of us." With a raw scream, she shook her head. "I won't. I refuse. I am stronger than you think." But was it true? The weight of their promises threatened to drag her down, into the maw of despair. As the light flickered dangerously, a relentless chorus of her past echoed in her ears, each voice calling her name, each memory a plea. Lily stumbled into the light, a dizzying swirl of warmth and pain. But instead of twisting the shadows away, the glow morphed into a wall of white, impenetrable and cold. She pressed against it, feeling the current shift, desperate to escape. "Do you truly believe you can outrun your past?" The loathsome voice slithered back, now layered with laughter, echoing from every corner of her mind. Lily gasped as the wall shimmered, waves of familiar faces melting into one another, the shadows morphing into the memories she'd tried to forsake. With every breath she took, the realization cracked inside her like thunder. What if escape wasn't the answer? What if understanding, embracing the darkness was the key to her survival? The light pulsated, expanding and contracting, and Lily felt the forest hold its breath once more, anticipating her next move. The choice lay before her: stay and confront her past, or push it away and risk the shadows claiming her forever. Time stood still. What would she choose? Would the truth liberate her, or ensnare her deeper? She stood at the edge of the flickering light, dread coiling tightly in her stomach, weighing her down like a stone. Everything in her screamed to escape, to flee into the dark woods, yet the warmth beckoned her with a siren-like innocence. Wasn't it supposed to be safe? But innocence was often a veil over danger, wasn't it? As time dripped away, Lily took hesitant steps closer to the light, her breath a shivering gasp escaping her lips. The chorus of her past clung to her, amplifying every heartbeat, every whisper of wind, as if the very forest held its breath, waiting for her choice to unfold. "Understand us, accept us," the shadows pulsed as one, almost as if they were a living thing, their voices wrapping around her with silken threads that felt both inviting and suffocating. "No," Lily cried out, the word tearing from somewhere deep inside her, fierce and urgent. "You're not real. You're just twisted memories." But the warmth enveloped her, wrapping her in nostalgia. A comforting blanket turned sinister. Each face within the light reshaped itself, cycling through moments of joy: her birthday parties, laughter around the fire pit, the loving dinners where she'd been blissfully ignorant of the darkness lurking at the edges. The joy twisted under the gaze of the shadows, morphing into pale grins that made her skin crawl. "Join our true family, Lily," their voices pleaded, hunger threading through their words. A part of her wanted to be embraced by that familiar warmth, to finally belong without fear of loss. "You have been so alone," that loneliness gnawed at her like a rodent, burrowing deeper. But she recognized that deceit. The simple tendrils of kindness covered the darkness of despair of never having enough. She needed to resist. She had to fight. The moment she closed her eyes to focus, a rush of clarity flooded her. When she opened them again, she willed herself to visualize the wall as something she could confront. A feeling of rebellion surged within her, giving her strength. "You do not control me," she screamed, and with that, she surged forward, lunging into the whiteness. In an explosive flash, the light collapsed around her, forcing her into a new dimension of pain and fear. The laughter morphed into agonizing wails, blurring her vision with sheer chaos that swallowed her whole. She collapsed to the ground, thorns and underbrush biting into her palms, but all she felt was the heat of the shadows attempting to drag her back. Images of her past, bloated and elongated, twisted grotesquely before her, faces now haunted and hollow, staring back with a frantic desperation. "No," she shouted again, fighting to break free of their grasp. Yet the shadows reached for her not with cold hands, but with a warmth that felt all too familiar. A flicker of comfort intertwined with the horror, each heartbeat pulsing louder, urging her to release her pain. Fear whispered that letting go was the only way out. "Choose." The words struck her like whips, striking at her will to resist. "Embrace the truth, or lose yourself forever." But deep down, a spark ignited an understanding that she'd have to confront the darkness, not cozy into it. With renewed energy, she focused on the heart of the light, the place between the shadows and her memories. It shimmered invitingly, yet she sensed a pulse of malice beneath its surface. The energy flipped like a switch, and the shadows writhed angrily as she stood her ground. She felt voices rise around her, not of friends, but long-buried truths rising from the ashes of grief. They fought against the shadows, each acknowledgement an act of defiance. Lily turned to face them. "I won't let you take me." Determination burned in her veins. Each word she spoke felt like releasing a greater part of her power. Then the voices, instead of pulling her back into sorrow, shifted and began to weave together, forming a new sound of fierce and vibrant chorus counteracting the darkness. The very ground beneath her trembled, pushing against the weight of the shadows. The forest vibrated with her fear and courage, blurring the lines that held them captive. But even as the light and dark battled, a chilling, inescapable truth loomed, a chilling echo framing her reality. What if this was a trap? What if confronting her past was where the real horror lay? The shadows twitched and pulsed, promising release, but it felt more like a cage now. Suddenly, a distant scream echoed through the forest. Just as Lily started turning, stretching her senses toward the sound, it stopped. Silence flooded around her, heavy and oppressive. "Who else is here?" she whispered into the eerie quiet, heart hammering wildly. As the stillness settled, dread coiled tighter, leaving her to wonder if she was not alone. Who or what else was lurking in the shadows? A heavy silence fell across the forest, breaking only with the sound of Lily's ragged breaths. She peered into the encroaching darkness, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. That voice she heard, it felt so familiar, so deeply etched into her essence, but it twisted like a knife in her gut. "Mommy?" she ventured, a whisper barely escaping her lips. The night swallowed her words, wrapping her in its suffocating embrace. The shadows shifted, no longer just dark figures, but living entities that seemed to breathe around her, waiting, watching. She could almost taste the damp earth beneath her, could feel the roots tugging at her ankles as though betraying her intent. Fear kicked in, but so did something else, an inexplicable resolve. "Get away from me," she shouted, the courage buoying her spirit. Each footfall felt like a declaration. She recalled her mother's brave heart, the strength for Lily to assert her own spirit even in the face of insurmountable dread. With that energy coursing through her, she steeled herself against the shadows, believing she could carve out a path through the terror. But the laughter returned, singing her name like an ominous lullaby. "Lily, join us," their voices danced around her, enticing yet twisted, each note pulling at threads of loneliness she thought she had buried. But she knew better now. She remembered the warmth of connections made not through despair, but through love. Another flicker of light sparked in the distance, welcoming strengthened this time by the delicate echo of her mother's laughter. Firelight, friendly and warm. "Mommy," Lily called once more, confidence pushing the panic back. That was her destination. That was safety. Moving forward, branches clawed at her skin, leaves whispered her name, but she pressed on. Yet, each step resonated with those ill-fated echoes urging her to stop, to linger in the dark comfort of the shadows. "What do you want from me?" she screamed, the question muffled by the grasp of fear, rippling through the air like a panicked prayer. The shadows twisted, morphing from mere silhouettes into faces she recognized: biology classmates, distant relatives, friends from old summers spent in laughter. "You don't know what you're missing, Lily," they crooned. But she was missing nothing. "I'll never be like you." The words burst forth with tears threatening to creep down her cheeks. "I refuse to be trapped in your darkness." Silence returned, but for a heartbeat, it felt like the shadows shifted, restless waves of murmuring. She felt their retreat, even if just momentarily, pushing her towards the flickering light that pulsed with certainty. And then she caught sight of a figure, a familiar outline bathed in warmth. "Daddy?" she called, voice shaky but resolute. He stood at the edge of the glow, arms open wide, face stricken with relief, yet haunted. "Come closer, sweet girl," he beckoned gently, urging her forward. With pounding heart, Lily rushed toward him, pulling through the thick air that sought to suffocate her dreams. As she crossed the threshold between light and shadow, she felt the chill lift as if a weight had been unshackled from her shoulders. The warmth enveloped her, wrapping her safely in its glow, but the laughter, oh, the laughter! It swirled violently outside, an echoing reminder of what could have been. "You can't hide, Lily. You will come back to us." A deep chill slithered through her spine, but in that moment of clarity, she turned to face the fog behind her. Lily took a steadying breath, heart racing, and shouted defiantly, "I'm not yours anymore." The very ground seemed to shudder with those words, and the shadows recoiled as if burned. Her father stepped closer, a tender smile breaking through the shadows that dared linger. "You have the power to break their hold." His eyes caught the light, glimmering with pride. This was her moment. With a fierce roar emanating from deep within, Lily proclaimed, "I choose to live. I choose my family." Suddenly, beams of brilliant light burst forth from her, lacing through the murky darkness and piercing the shadows. They screamed, an agony so palpable it reverberated through the air, as they recoiled violently from her stance. "You don't belong here." The laughter turned to horror, fading into a whimper. The silhouettes blurred, unraveling like smoke dissipating in the breeze. With each word she hurled forth, the forest sighed in relief. Lily felt it shift, felt the light swell within, flooding her spirit with warmth and clarity. The darkness began to disintegrate, retreating into the corners of the woods, possibly eager to ensnare someone else. But her fight wasn't just her own. It was for Clara, for the bond they shared. "Mommy," she cried, her voice echoing through the trees, the flicker of hope ignited in the distance, a soft glow shining brighter. Clara broke through the fog like the dawn after a long, suffocating night, eyes wide with unyielding love. The moment their gazes locked, every fear shattered, and reality flooded back, binding them in a thread of resilience. Lily ran into her mother's arms, muscles trembling, but this time, they were together. "See, I told you I would find you," Clara whispered, tears streaming, reflecting the warmth and might radiating from her child. "Together, always together," Lily replied, holding Clara tight. The weight of despair lifted as the forest sighed again, finally relinquishing its tight grip. As dawn broke, sunbeams sliced through the treetops, illuminating their path, a new beginning written between shadows and light. Together, mother and daughter forged ahead, leaving the whispers behind, stepping boldly into the embrace of a world bathed in hope. "Let us go home," Clara said, resolve tightening her voice. And as they walked, hand in hand, the forest held nothing but echoes of their laughter, and the memories of a fight not just for survival, but for love, unbreakable and true. But this is not just the end, it's the beginning. If you enjoyed this ride into darkness, subscribe immediately so you don't miss future thrilling stories where fear meets hope. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. You know it makes a difference. Please flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. I want to know how this story landed with you. And don't wait even one more second to share this epic conclusion with at least 5 friends who need to join us on this journey. Support from true fans like you keeps the tales spinning.